Hang in there, it
that. Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
Well, here we are. It's the end of the Ryder Cup. You can hear the ambiance in the background, the European fans celebrating the fact that they originally retained the Ryder Cup. They got to 14 points by virtue of Shane Lowry's birdie on 18, eventually won another full point. They win this thing 15-13. Smylie, what a crazy day it was today. I mean, we're coming to the course, we're thinking, can the Europeans get to 20 points? Could this be one of the worst losses in Ryder Cup history? And what we got instead is one of the more exciting Sundays in Ryder Cup history. And you were out there covering multiple different groups. You talked to Graham McDowell on the front end of this about just what it's like being out there on the course and hearing the murmurs and the energy and excitement build. How did you feel when you were out there today on the broadcast?
Well, what a day that I definitely will not forget. And shout out to Jaxon Charlie for their first Ryder Cup to get a Sunday like this. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, this is a day I'm definitely not going to forget. Just all of it felt like it was going to be a dud today. I think everybody woke up and said, man, how bad are they going to win, like you said. But what the Europeans did not experience at all this week was any sense of momentum from the American players, the crowd, the energy. And to me, that was the storyline of Sunday, because a little bit surprising, but understandably, because Luke Donald has been on the offensive with his lineups, and you knew American was going to have to front load. And he decided to front load when you could have made a case of putting those guys in the middle of the deal to maybe go up against lesser matchups. And once the Americans turn the corner on the 18th hole with the Cam Young win, the JT win, Bryson DeChambeau losing his first 5 out of his first 7 holes, coming back to tie that match. And suddenly you started looking at the board and you're like, okay, I see a bunch of tied matches, but I don't see any blue on the board. So there was hope. The American fans felt it, the players felt it, but I think where we have to start in this debate, and this was a talking point that I think is going to continue on for a while now, is before the day started, there were 12 matches, went down to 11 matches, and I think you're going to hear a lot about this in the post press conference for the American players maybe disagreeing with this rule. How are you able to give a half point to this? I know it doesn't change a ton besides, what they had, the points they had to retain was 14. You get through?
You want to get through? Oh, no, we're in the middle of a show. So, hey, thank you. Someone's over here trying to get in the show. Hey, see you later. But, I think you make a good point where you're talking about the Viktor Hovland, the half-point situation. What do you do about that? I mean, I understand that in the case of an injury, you're trying to kind of come up with a reasonable solution for both sides. Obviously, Viktor Hovland didn't wish for himself to be injured. We even talked a little bit on last night's show. Is a little bit of gamesmanship, or would you just take the half point and know it gets you 1 half point closer? Well, how do you feel about that rule?
For me, I had an opportunity to speak with Viktor Hovland, and I said, "Bummer, Viktor. Sorry to hear about your injury." Tapped him on the back, and he did one of these. And if anybody's ever had a neck injury or something cramp up in your shoulder, you know you have no mobility. Could he have played through it? Gosh, I don't know, but I talked to his caddy, and he said it's a very similar injury that he had earlier this season at the Travelers. It just happened to be on the different side. It's a huge bummer for Harris English, who works his tail off to want to be a part of, an incredible Sunday like we experienced today, to not feel like he had an opportunity to go win that full point, because it could have been the difference, like that full point could have changed the complexion of this Ryder Cup.
If it finishes 14-14, we're definitely talking about it. Even if you get to 14.5 to 13.5, you're probably still talking about it. You get to 15-13, and you're a little bit clear of that. Even if Viktor loses the match, they still win 14.5 to 13.5, as we see the European team wearing their flags down here. Okay, before we were so rudely interrupted by the Ryder Cup trophy presentation.
Hey, what the heck, Cara?
Come on now, we're trying to do a show here. I was saying, this is a non sequitur, but I saw Vic out there, and I was thinking to myself, Vic, I got surgery done on my neck here in New York City, and the last time I saw you had a neck brace on. Do I go tap him on the shoulder and say, you need disc surgery? Like, you need a guy? I got a guy for you.
What I hear, bulging disc was kind of what was reported on the deal. By the way, did you hear about my reporting today?
Tell me.
Did you hear about I think it's called the Cherry Fizz? Have you heard about this?
No.
Okay, so Bones talked about how he said that, I guess, with he was following Rory and Scotty, and that apparently people had snuck in little rubber ducks into the golf course. And then I'd gotten some texts from some buddies who had been here earlier in the week. It said, no. That's the limited edition Ryder Cup duck. Because he had said that they were squeaking it, and it was bothering Rory. But this duck was on top of the Cherry Fizz alcohol drink that was served at the golf course all week. It's called like the Cherry Fizz. And so I got on like our talk back, and I'm like, hey, our producer's name's Tommy. I was like, Tommy, they didn't sneak him in. They got him on top of their drinks. He's like, what? And I was like, I'm telling you, this was, they weren't just squeaking in, or they weren't sneaking in these rubber ducks.
They were sneaking in the squeak.
Yeah.
The squeak was already here.
I just thought that was a hilarious storyline that I never expected today, was to hear about the squeaky ducks.
That was some great field reporting on the hard-hitting issues, by the way. I mean,
Classic that I'm reporting on the alcoholic drinks in the middle of an NBC broadcast, but that's neither here nor there.
Sometimes that's how it goes.
You can cash that.
You can cash that, just like your prediction on aim point. Here's what I kind of feel like, Smylie. This was movie and sequel. Yeah. I mean, because you almost have to split it up into the Friday-Saturday version of this, which is Europe having one of the greatest performances in the history of the Ryder Cup, statistically, points-wise, putting, all those things. And you almost have to take that and separate that from what we saw today, which was nearly the greatest comeback in Ryder Cup history. And it probably, if you go back and look at it, we don't have the stats. We're recording literally right as the last putt dropped. But in my mind, if the largest deficit overcome was 4 points, and they are 7 points back to start the day, and they end up 2 points short.
Yeah,
they made up 5 points. I mean,
they only won one match today. Only one match today. Just insane.
Truly insane.
But you're right. It was a task that felt insurmountable, one that I felt like was impossible. Yeah. And I think just the fans that showed up today, I thought really brought a lot of energy. It would have been easy for these fans to kind of give up on these guys, but they fought so hard. The players never got more than, early in the day, there was some blue on the board, but even in the matches that were kind of going that way, the matches besides Fitzy never got more than like 1 or 2 up. Yeah. And the guys hung tough. A ton of birdies. Russell Henley fought his butt off. He's going to, of course, be the talking point, the putts that he had potentially to win his match. But it doesn't come down to one player. It doesn't come down to the stroke of any player. But Shane Lowry has just gone into Irish folklore. The amount of stuff that he's been able to accomplish, winning the Open Championship at home, and now having the winning putt on the 18th green at Bethpage to win a away Ryder Cup, which has not happened since 2012 at Medina. But golly, an epic day, an epic day. But there's so much more to talk about with this Ryder Cup and storylines.
Well, I mean, Shane was saying that as much as that Open Championship win meant, this meant more to him, which that truly speaks volumes for where he won that, the fashion in which he won that. I mean, the meaning to these guys, I think, is incredible. I don't want to stray too far from the competition. We can come back, but you mentioned the fans a little bit, and I wonder where we end up on the fan thing today, because me personally, what I heard and saw, it went back and forth from that's clever to this really doesn't feel good. Like being out there on Saturday, being with Rory and Shane, some of the things that were said, I was no longer enjoying being a part of the Ryder Cup, hearing the things that were said. And today I thought it was tamer to start, and really when the U.S. started winning. And this I think is the main factor. It's like if this thing would have been closer and more of it would have been energy for the United States side and cheering those guys on, it doesn't get as chippy and negative. But when they go down that fashion, the only thing left to do is kind of rip on the Europeans. I really only heard one comment today that I really did not love. It was a comment about Tommy Fleetwood's wife, that he actually looked up and sort of acknowledged, and Luke Donald said something to him coming off the green. So I just, I go back and forth on this. I think there's part of this that is, you want to make the game accessible to all, grow it to all, bring new fans in, but golf isn't just about hitting a white ball around and getting it into a hole. There's a whole embedded culture and set of values here that are supposed to come with the game. And when it gets reduced to what it was at times this week, it's not a good feel. And I don't know how you put that genie back in the bottle, because if you go to Adair Manor, there are a lot of Irish dudes that like to drink beer, and they're going to remember what happened here, and they're going to do the same thing when you go back there, I think.
it definitely got out of hands at times for sure. And these guys probably were so bothered by everything that came at them this week, and they had to experience it when the crowds were a little lighter. Not crowds, but maybe the crowd noise, to where you hear more, because you didn't have these crowd pops like we had today on Sunday that was happening earlier in the week. So everything just seemed to stand out a little bit more. But because it was so loud, I mean, I saw every single person yell at Fitzy as he was walking to the 18th tee where he was playing Bryson DeChambeau. And I can promise you, none of them were very nice words. And I don't even know if Fitzy would have heard it, because it was that loud. And hey, this is the one event where you have a true away game. We're so used to it in every other sport. Is it wrong that the guys are saying negative things? Absolutely. I don't condone that whatsoever. But it does make for an insane atmosphere. I hope it gets cleaned up a little bit, but it's part of winning an away game in this sport. I think it's the one time that we can really have crowds and energy like this that isn't comparable to any other week that we have, which makes the Ryder Cup what it is. So we'll see. Hopefully the next time we have a home Ryder Cup, there's going to be some plans in place, but you can't do anything about stupid, you know?
We're going to Minnesota. It's like nicest people on earth. I don't think we're going to have any issues. Yeah. Jackson's going to make sure they're all in line up there.
I guess
the Upers. Is that the Upers? Is that Michigan? That's used to be Michigan.
The one thing I want to bring up
right?
is just Friday, Saturday. You know, we talked so much about all the right strings that the Europeans pulled with the lineups, how well they play, having an answer for every single test, and being as many points as they were up heading into Sunday. I still point to, gosh, they only lost this Ryder Cup by 2 points. Can you imagine if there was a couple tweaks here and there with the lineups? I would be heading back to headquarters for Team USA and saying, who are our stats guys? Is this the best plan that we have from a stats perspective? Because you can pick holes for certain lineups that happened this week that, controversially, maybe the Europeans, of course, have these great partnerships and they play well together. And when you separate them, they don't play quite as well. I don't know. The Americans got to find answers in these partnerships, and I think they need to look at their who's making these decisions from a stat standpoint.
Well, it's so funny to me, especially coming off of the Walker Cup just a few weeks before, how it just seems like there's this glaring chasm between American partnered match play and American individual, singles, match play. And it's, I mean, the Walker Cup, which historically is tilted in the Americans' favor because it's just Great Britain and Ireland, GB and I actually won on aggregate in the foursomes format, and then it's got boat races singles. And then here today, or not today, but just this entire week here at Bethpage Black, it was once again just no matter what the format, foursomes, four-ball, the Europeans found an edge, and they just really had a lot of combinations that work. But then you get to singles, and all these guys who've struggled all week really shine.
Yeah.
And so I think it's absolutely to your point. What is the plan? Is it more analytics? Is it different guys with different mentality? Because I even wonder if there's part of this that is using captain's picks on guys that aren't necessarily statistically best over the course of the year, but the guys that are just match play dogs.
Well,
like what happens if a Brian Harmon's here? What happens if a Patrick Reed is here? Or Jordan Spieth? These guys that just love those sorts of moments. Maybe not the best player on form, but guys who love to come here and compete. That's a question I ask.
I think they're definitely, you can make a case about the dog mentality that you need to play well in Ryder Cups and not having too many rookies and because of the atmosphere. I think form's important, though. I really do think form's important, and course fit specifically, because Bethpage, when you look at this place at the end of the week, it favored the Bombers. If there was a stroke play tournament, I think majority of the field would have been at the top of the leaderboard would have been the guys that hit it far. It doesn't mean that the short guys can't play well, but in a partner standpoint, there seem to be disadvantages that the Americans had this week. But I look at the European team and why they were so good this week. Well, you got the top-end talent. They performed very well, no doubt about it. There's some guys that definitely are entering some Ryder Cup war from the European side that have official stamp. You got Rory, of course, now winning away Ryder Cup, being a part of two of them, finishing the Grand Slam off. But there was just such a good balance for this European team. I think it eventually outweighed the Americans. Just the form, the veterans, the top end guys. Where then you look at the Americans, and it was the question marks coming into this Ryder Cup, not having necessarily built-in partnerships. And do you head into a Darren Manor feeling like you have definite partnerships? I don't right now, because there was no answers on Friday and Saturday. So you're still going to have the same question marks heading to Ireland that they had coming into this week, which is, who do you pair with Scottie Scheffler? Is Bryson DeChambeau? Who are you pairing him with? Because when we look at the scoreboard and we see him 13 points for America, and that Scottie Scheffler and Bryson only had 2.5 of those points. Actually, that doesn't feel right, because Bryson won
a half point with Cam Young, and then he won a singles match today.
Yes.
And then Scottie won a singles match today. I think that is 2.5 points.
Actually,
right?
I can't remember how. My brain is mush. Yeah. I apologize. But regardless of the fact, not as many points as you would assume that your two best players on the team would have. So that's the getting back to the drawing boards. That would be the deal. Is figuring out, okay, how can we set ourselves up, especially for home matches, to be very, very successful. And it seems like the course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played, it definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
It's this weird sort of dice roll where if you turn it into as much of a putting contest as Bethpage Black can be, does it then become, you can move the needle any sort of direction? Like, that's how they get back in the match today.
Well, I had felt coming into this Ryder Cup that 1 to 12, and when you look at it, just the strokes gained data across the board, the Americans had more depth. I felt comfortable about the singles, if they were tied or just even a little behind, that they could go and win this Ryder Cup. That is over the last, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, not over the course of history.
Yes.
This is coming into this Ryder Cup. Now, were there players that were playing better than others? Yeah, that was the biggest question mark, is the guys with experience from the American team didn't necessarily have the form coming in. And the one guy that, really two guys, I felt like JT, Colin Morikawa, and Xander Schauffele, I felt like they needed two of those three to play well this week, because you just didn't know how the rookies were going to perform. But they got inspired performances from JT. You saw some really good stuff from Xander Schauffele. Colin Morikawa
4-3 today from John Rahm.
Yeah, Colin Morikawa didn't necessarily have the week that he wanted, and you can definitely make a case about him being out in foursomes. Could he have been better in the 4-ball? Harris, I felt like, and Ben Griffin were misused this week. I felt like Ben should have maybe gone out again in the afternoon because of how well he's been playing. And you saw it this afternoon playing some really good golf. You could have definitely poked some holes at the lineups. And it's not like that Keegan and those guys didn't feel good about it. The Europeans just played a little bit better. But when it comes down to just 2 points, you try to find holes in why the U.S. didn't get it done.
What do you think the ending, sort of the closing narrative, is going to be on this captaincy for Keegan Bradley? Because we talked about this all week long, and it's easy, again, to Monday morning quarterback, to Monday morning captain these things, right? We talked about coming in, we had questions about certain captain's picks that were used, right? We had questions about the course setup. We had questions about choosing to play foursomes first instead of 4-ball. We had questions, as you just noted there, about some of the pairings, the Morikawa English pairing, things like that. And then you get here and it doesn't pan out well, and they're in one of the deepest holes after 2 days in Ryder Cup history. And then you have the press conference last night where he's being asked about the fan behavior, and so a reporter kind of asks a question in a way that says, are you saying that it's your players' fault that these guys, that the fans are acting like this because they're playing so bad? And he kind of bristles with that question. And you're sitting there on Saturday night and you're thinking, man, this could go really, really bad for Keegan. And then we get to Sunday, and everything happens that happens. And I'm standing there watching Justin Thomas, after he makes that birdie on 18, what an amazing comeback for him. And to hit that shot from the right rough on 18 and land it perfectly and give himself that opportunity to make that putt. And once he gets done with all of his interviews, the first person he's looking for is a Cap. Goes over and gives Keegan a big hug. I mean, these guys, it seems like they loved playing for Keegan. And so I wonder how much that narrative changes from where we stood just less than 24 hours ago to where we are now on what people are going to say about the type of captain Keegan Bradley was here at Bethpage.
Well, all the things that I just talked about how you could pick holes in the lineups, this and that. But as time goes on, we're going to remember the comeback at Bethpage where the Americans almost won and almost did something historic. And plenty of the vice captains that I talked to walking down the fairways, we're just saying, can you believe that we got a chance to win this? And I think that's a reflection of the captain and the guys believing that they had a chance to win today. I think many other captains would have, nobody's going to ever throw in the bag. The players certainly aren't going to throw in the bag. But it was an inspired performance from these guys as my cart shows up.
Thank you, Mikey.
Thank you, Mikey.
This
Joey,
is
look at these guys.
Look at this. This is white glove service. Yeah, let's get the camera on this.
Shout out to the boys.
Here we go. Shout out to the boys with the golf carts. That's good news for Mr. Kaufman.
Yeah, the good news for my flight. Mikey, thanks, buddy. Thanks, Joey.
We need like a countdown too on the real time right now to when Smylie has to check in for his flight and leave for his flight.
I gotta get home. Shout out to my wife who's hopefully not chasing our 2.5-year-old around as we're having a child next week. So getting home tonight is paramount. So we're obviously going to be just getting on the plane tonight and just being like, what the heck just happened? Because this was seriously a day that I'll never forget. It's why I love what I do. Walking down these fairways, being on the call for, really I was on Shane's group too, just to be a part of the call on that 18th is really a dream come true for me that I didn't know I had a dream of having at any point in my life. So a lot of fun.
You said this to us after the Ryder Cup in Rome this is one of my favorite, not my favorite sporting events I've ever been to.
Oh, so much fun, isn't it?
And I'll say for Jaxon, I'm curious to hear from Jaxon once we know this record, or we could just have Jaxon come over here and we could interview
Jaxon
him.
might have to close this thing out if I got to catch this flight.
That's right. If you close this flight out, it's going to be Jaxon and I talking about our first Ryder Cup experience. But I think what a strange week. I mean, the Ryder Cup experience in and of itself, I thought was amazing. And just the intensity and the passion from both sides and really enjoying the European fans and the songs they bring. Yeah. It's unlike any golf event that you're ever going to go to. And then on top of that, just seeing the passion of the players.
Sure.
It's just so different. I mean, just Shane's reaction on 18 says it all. It's like you don't see reactions from guys like that winning majors individually.
Yeah.
And it just speaks to what it is. And then you layer on top of that just the way this thing seesawed back and forth. I mean, I thought for all the bad there was, and I think it's fair to say, listen, we get it. The fans, some of the stuff crossed the line. We got to figure out a way to kind of get the genie back in the bottle there. This needs to be a respectful thing. But just the spectacle that this event is, there's nothing like it, man. This is truly unique and incredible stuff.
When you look at the Sunday singles and you look down the list, what surprised you the most today of the results? Like, was there one match that you felt like was one that was unexpected to you? Because when I look at it, I would have said, if we're standing right here and the Americans almost had a chance to win, I would have said that Patty Ice would have for sure beaten Ludwig Åberg. That's the result. The only win today was Ludwig Åberg. Not to say that Ludwig's not capable of beating Patty Ice, but on a day in which the Americans have their best, he's been the one that's been so rock solid this week that you wouldn't have had a question about. And Ludwig got a huge point winning on the 17th hole. So that would be my answer. What about you?
I'd say probably, and not that Xander Schauffele's been bad this week, but he just hasn't been his usual self, and he's missed some uncharacteristic putts. When I was following, and I wasn't even with this group, but when I looked up and I saw that he beat John Rahm, one of Europe's steadiest performers, 4-3, I was like, is that a misprint? Did they take that from another match? How in the heck?
Yeah.
I think that one was pretty stunning. I think Bryson being 4 down at one point and coming all the way back to scrape a point, I thought for sure, as you saw in 18, everyone was missing that putt on the left side of the hole. And I was just hoping that in Bryson's science brain, he just would have somehow topographically read that thing right and made that birdie. Because could you imagine the lid going off on this place if Bryson buries a birdie from downtown to win a point there?
That was the, I had a chance to look at that lie from Bryson. It was a heavier kind of lie in the grass. It wasn't sitting down like in some hard pan. Like there was enough on it to where I felt like he could have done better with that in that moment. But in
his approach, you're saying from the right rough,
I think the way he hits golf shots, I feel like sometimes hurts him in moments. And in a moment like that, I felt like it was. If he would have had a normal length iron, like a normal length wedge, I mean, he hit this thing to the moon. I would have thought that most players would have been able to bring that in low and get it to tumble all the way to that back pin. So it was really surprising he tried to just swing through this heavier grass to hit it up in the air instead of trying to get steep and get it to chase back. Not to say like, I mean, he fought his tail off and got the half point, but I felt like he needed to putt before Matt, because Matt hit such a poor wedge shot into the green. Especially when you're reeling like that, you're just like, what a gift it seemed like it was for Bryson to putt first instead of second,
and even give him maybe a little bit.
Yeah, because Fitzy knew what he needed to do. He saw the read exactly.
This is a little bit of a diversion, but this type of stuff fascinates me because it was just. I'll tell you what the coolest part of this for me was just being able to be inside the ropes the last couple of days and like just watch these guys work up close. And I went out today. I was like, man, the way Tommy Fleetwood's played this week, I cannot leave without just watching him hit the golf ball a few more holes. And I went out there expecting good. Tommy. And what I got was just an incredible show from Justin Thomas as well.
At what point was that? What
I picked him up at 10. I watched him 10 through 18, and I saw all sorts of different shots. And I'm curious, they both had lies out of the right rough on 15. And I've just been paying attention to all the things they're doing at their grip and things like that. I know this is like golf nerd guy here.
Jax, this is all right. I'm in. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm tuned in.
Can we go there?
Yeah, where are we?
Permission to go there. Permission to go there. Do you? If you're expecting a ball to come out of the rough right to left, right? It felt like both those guys got a little weaker with their low hand out of the rough to kind of allow it to cut, maybe take away the severity of the right to left movement. Do you change your grip at all out of lies out of the rough?
Yes. Maybe just opening the face just slightly.
Okay.
Just to keep the club from turning over, and you're coming down a little steeper on it. So you're not trying to sweep it out of rough, but this week you almost could have gotten away with sweeping it out of the rough because it was not a challenge whatsoever. It's a good observation from you, because for the most part I didn't see anybody struggle like with lies, figuring out stuff out of the rough. But the one other thing I want to talk about from today that was an interesting storyline that kind of developed was on the 13th hole. It was a match that I was walking with Cam Young and Justin Rose, which was a pivotal match in trying to get red on the board early. And Cam, he's coming off of a win where it was gifted a hole at the 12th, where he's 3 up now, heading into 13. And Rosie gets the mini driver out, has like 290 to the pin at 13. Hits this big old tailing right shot. If you've been to the 13th at Bethpage, it's a huge slope right of the green, and the ball went 75 yards right of the pin, all the way down to the hill, in some almost some bricks that had some grass in between it, but clear relief was given.
So wait, okay, can I pause here? Because that's why there was that long stop from the group behind it, where they came up into the green. That's what was happening.
You want to know what happened? All right,
please.
So they get down there, and there's this little patch of grass behind where the bricks are. So Justin Rose has an opportunity to drop on this steep slope that the ball is going to be above his feet, take a drop, and really the only way he was going to have a shot is if the drop rolled out of the tee line. So you got to keep it within the tees, or if it gets on the cart path, and you get to place it. And so I'm thinking to myself, I think it's steep enough to where he's going to be able to drop it close enough to his tee. The ball's going to roll down the hill, and he's going to place it. And he's going to have a difficult shot, but he's got an alleyway and an opportunity. And Cam Young was inside of 10 feet. And so he takes one drop. And now this is 5 minutes into the whole process. Like, it's taking too long. And all of a sudden, before he takes his second drop, there were questions asked, whether it was from Justin or his caddy Fooch and a rules official standing by, of looking at potentially other options instead of dropping it again. And so now all of a sudden Fuchs is now running up to the green to look at potentially moving to take a drop on the tee at 14. So with that structure behind 14, you had an option to take no closer to the hole, nearest point of relief, and go drop it on the tee at 14. So we're talking about 30 to 50 yards over on the other side on top of the hill. And Fuchs walked off a yardage all the way to the tee at 14, but it made no sense to me at all that we're wasting this much time because there were trees in the way. Mm-hmm. It never seemed like an option unless you hit this like mega flop. And so they're going through this process. Now we're 10 minutes in. All of a sudden, Keegan, he comes driving up because the vice captains are sending, on communications to Keegan, hey, you need to get up here because they're slow playing this whole rules situation. And so Keegan comes flying down the hill, runs up to the ref, and says, you've got to speed up this ruling. This is taking entirely too long. And basically asking for, you need to show me what's going down here. Like, why is he able to get a drop up here? That was explained. Eventually, Justin decided just to drop in that same little strip. And then he has 75 yards, hits this shot that takes a little bit of a fortunate kick out of the rough, spins up there, and he's somehow got 4 feet for birdie. And this was a 15-minute ordeal.
Yeah.
Remember, he's 3 up. Cam Young is. And now Cam Young misses a putt Justin Rose makes. Justin Rose birdies the next hole and is somehow 1 down heading into 15. And the only last thing I'll say is that walking down the 14th hole, Keegan is wearing out this rules official.
Wow.
Because the rules officials need to be more direct, and if a player asks what their options are, they need to tell them what they are and be quick in the process. A player can't slow play a situation like what happened at the 13th hole today, because I felt like it crossed the line, because you owe it to the player you're playing with to play with a pace that is supposed to be respectful. I thought it got out of hand there at 13 with the drop. Yes, it was confusing and challenging to figure out, but that's why you have 3 rules officials walking with every single group to be able to give quick feedback on what the players' options are. So that was one of the many gamesmanship things that happened this week. And hey, he's played more Ryder Cup matches than anybody, and that momentum of that whole situation turned in his favor. And Cam Young made the putt at 18, which he was the better player today.
Right.
So, but Justin Rose, what a week, golly.
Yeah, I was camped out with Luke Cardenine having like a picnic over there, wondering where the heck JT went. I'll say right before that, JT hit a 6-shot out of a fairway bunker where he had like a ball above his feet and the lip was coming like this. And he had this like little kind of trap low thing that chased up to give him a little wedge in. I just thought JT. I saw you dap up JT at the end there, like what he did to battle and fight there, and he narrowly missed a birdie putt in that hole that would have Tommy makes.
Yeah, I heard that.
He goes one down there. He narrowly missed a birdie. He made a great roll on a putt on 17, and then out of the rough did that shot at 18. I thought for a guy that, had. He had the win with Cam Young this week, but it was tough for the entire team. That guy is a match play dog, and you saw it, the release of energy and turning the crowd at the end. I thought it was fantastic.
Strokes gained dog. Justin Thomas
X-ray.
Definitely way up there. Same with Justin Rose, the Justins. One thing I want to think about with this singles when we talk about how many matches a player should play to where they are 100% their best self when they play singles. If you look at every single player that played 5 matches this week, the only person to win a match, I believe, that played 5 was Scotty. But everybody else lost today. Tommy Fleetwood, John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, all played
Patrick
4
Cantlay.
matches coming in today. Same with Patrick Cantlay.
Bryson got a half.
He got a half, but
Right.
he didn't win his match. It's just something to talk about with these guys were gassed. It's 72 holes in 2 days is a lot of golf to play. And then you got to come out here and somehow take down, that's where the opportunity was with Justin today, is to get a depleted Tommy. Mm-hmm. That was still, I think, one of the most impressive wins of the day. With JT not having near his best stuff, to be able to take down Tommy, who was an animal this week.
Amazing.
An animal. He was 4-0 heading into today. I was very proud of JT to get that point.
Well, and it sounds like the Scotty Rory match was sort of a war of attrition. I mean, both guys seem like they're absolutely gassed. And it's just 2 5-match guys. Someone has to win or have. And it was just, it looked like it was exhausting coming down the stretch.
Scotty said that in his interview after. He said that him and Rory were laughing about it, walking down the fairway, just saying, "Are you as tired as I am?" He's like, "Yes, I'm dying. Do you want to fake injuries and go to 18? Yes."
Yeah, I mean, and this had to have been, I'm curious from guys you talked to, somehow more emotional even than a regular Ryder Cup, just given the ups and downs and the engagement with the crowds and the questions that are being asked beyond the golf.
build-up, man.
The build-up, the intensity of it while you're in it, and then on the back end, just, trying to process what just happened. Because I think a lot of people felt like, and this is really a credit to the American team, because they very easily could have just shown up, mailed it in, and win a few matches, so it's not some blowout. They don't get to 20 points, but just it's a huge margin. For them to show up as exhausted, and we the boys brought the songs this week. The boys brought the songs. But I thought, I'll be really curious to see what these guys say in the post-game press conferences when we start to break those down, because I think a lot of guys, this was a big emotional spin this week across the board.
100%. It's going to be fun to hear what is said after. I know guys from that European team that probably will have a lot they can say. I hope they try to take as much of a high road as they can, because these guys are playing in the States so often, and they're so easy to root for. So many of these players that I have so much respect for, and it's a shame that they had to go through what they went through.
Yeah.
But if part of me, like, I never want anything said poorly about any player, but I think the home field advantage or the home course advantage should mean something in a Ryder Cup in some way, shape, or form. Now, did it cross the line? Yes. I hate when players have to back off shots for people being idiots. I want that to go away and stop. I hope it never happens again. But you have to have a lot of respect for these people showing out today, because it was a raucous environment.
It was what I hoped the entire Ryder Cup was going to be, in terms of, with some small exceptions. But even like a guy like Rory, what a roller coaster week for Rory, where he starts the week saying, "I still think America's the greatest country in the world. My wife's from here, my daughter was born here." And, he goes through what he goes through this week, and Erica gets hit by a drink yesterday, like all the stuff that happens.
I didn't know that. That sucks.
It's just, I think to me, it's, you could say whatever you want about me. We heard some weight jokes, all this stuff. Now, I'm not saying that's out of bounds. But I'm saying say whatever you want about me. Don't bring my family in it. I'd be just as hot if that was the case.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, incredible week. Jaxon, what was your highlights?
Let's bring Jaxon. He's holding lights. Why don't you bring the lights over here and like put them underneath your face like you're telling a ghost story?
Why don't you interview Jax? I'll hold the lights.
Okay, there we go. Smiles. Come on now. We got look at this. Look at this. Wait, hold on. You hold this microphone. All right, and wait.
I probably look quite disheveled right now.
This is great. We're gonna add this in as B-roll. While you tell us about the Ryder Cup, and then we're gonna insert Smylie holding lights as B-roll. This is really, really good stuff.
Man, I'll tell you what. It was today was something special. I sat in the media viewing center over 18 pretty much the entire day. Got to see every single one of these electric moments out here to finish, and just hearing the kind of like slow crescendo of the energy around here throughout the day, and it coming down to some of these final matches. It was something I'll never forget. Can't thank you guys enough, honestly.
Was it ever? You played. Question from the crowd. You've played in some football arenas.
Yep.
Have you ever heard some crowd pops quite as loud as maybe some at North Dakota State?
Oh man, absolutely not. We had one game at Iowa in 2016 with the game-winning kick. That was close, but this that crowd pop on 18 today with JT was something I was not ready for, and I'll never forget. That was incredible.
Quick other question: was that final score? Was it 3-0 Iowa?
23-21. Good guys. Good guys.
We have to go with you in the cart.
You gotta go.
Are we done? From a great year from the Smylie Show crew. See ya. See ya.
What an ending.
What a great way to end it. That's great.
I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our
First
lovely
time.
fans and subscribers, but
Make sure you like and subscribe.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too, so please keep it up.
For all the good people at YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the